Thomas Frank to Tottenham is a real story that's come up today. And I've kind of paid it a bit of attention because, like I want to say this in the right way.
Where do you want to be as a club?
Say what you think, Terry. Don't be political.
No. I'm not being political. I'm trying to get my words right. So
Because
you've said no. According to your journalist, you've said no to Nagelsmann. Poch is obviously going back to Chelsea. Thomas Frank? I don't think that's a bad appointment.
I think that's an L for Thomas Frank.
But it's a... You think it's an L for Thomas Frank?
That's a brilliant appointment for Spurs. If they can get that, that's amazing.
He's got something good going on now. I think.
Can I chip in? Can the Spurs fan chip in, please?
Go on.
Listen, this whole Thomas Frank thing. Thomas Frank is a decent coach. He's done a fantastic job at Brentford. I like him, but for Spurs, it just shows that there's no direction. There's no leadership. We don't know what we're doing. We're going from one coach that coaches one way to another profile of a coach who coaches another way. There's no plan. There's no synergy. We don't know what we're doing. And Thomas Frank is another flavour of the month. He's had a good season. Brentford are going to finish in the top 10 for the first time in their history. Fantastic. The guy's done wonders, from where they came from. But if you look at Enrique, Nagelsmann, Pochettino, whoever else we've been linked to, De Zerbi, Arne Slot, there's so many different names and they're all completely different types of coaches. And it just goes to show there's no plan, there's no direction. This whole, let's pull away from Nagelsmann before, the PR and comms got that completely wrong. Just man up and own it. You don't have the direction, or you don't have the nous, or you don't have basically you're not able to offer a top coach what they want to be competitive and to really want to take ownership of a club. So just own that and just say, this is what we're doing now, and we're going to go with an up-and-comer. We're going to go with a nobody or somebody that's not proven their stripes, like what's his name, the ex Xabi Alonso, for example. I'm not shitting on Xabi Alonso. He might be a good coach in the future, but the guy is not it right now in terms of coming into a big club. But if that's the direction they want to take, fair enough. But come out and own it and say it. Let the fans know what's going on. Actually communicate to the fans so that we know where we stand. Because right now, the messages are so mismatched and no one knows what's going on. And it's just another joke. It's just another Nuno part 2, where it's going to be 60, 70 days. We're talking to all these different coaches, but we're not able to actually entice any good coach to come through because they know what's what after having a proper conversation with Daniel Levy. And it's just a no. So it's embarrassing. And obviously people are going to laugh and throw their digs. And fair enough. Like, sometimes you can't defend the undefendable. And I can't defend what's going on right now. It's just shambles from top to bottom. And it's embarrassing. And it hurts. Like, being a Spurs fan and seeing the potential of the club and where we could be if it's been managed right to where we are right now, it's a sinking ship. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
Let me ask you guys an honest question. What do you have to offer to a Nagelsmann or Enrique to actually take a chance on your club?
The thing is, this is where
no banter, dead serious.
Patrick pretty much touched on this. We don't have a direction at the moment. So what we have to offer is pretty much nothing. Not right now. Apart from money, we're offering you money, and we're not offering direction.
He's laughing. No banter, but he's laughing, isn't it?
No, because
a gal always does this. The thing is, we can't have serious conversations with a gal because a gal will say, "Oh, I'm not trying to throw a shot," and then you throw a shot. If you're having a serious
I'm not trying to throw a shot, but his response is funny because I would wonder if you have anything to offer, but then you're expecting the top managers. If you have nothing to offer, you can't expect top managers. You have to settle.
Top managers
you have to settle. For what
top
you
managers
cannot,
come
what
in
you
and
can
shape
take.
clubs, and that's what we need. We need a manager to come in and put some shape into this club, bring some of their values and put that onto the team. Because at the moment, as you can see, we don't have a director of football. We don't have a manager. We don't really have a clear squad of players which you can look at and say, "Oh, these are some players that are going to take us forward." So we need someone to come in who's going to give us that clear direction, put some values into this club, and show where we're going to be taking this club. Bringing in a manager like Thomas Frank, for me, you're showing the direction, and the direction is to continue being a mid-table. Because bringing in Thomas Frank, as good as he's done, as you've mentioned, he's getting Brentford into the top 10 for the first ever time. Wow, that's great on him. Sean Dyche done that for Burnley. Luis Enrique done it with Roberto Martinez done it with Everton. It doesn't make them great managers. It doesn't make you a great coach. People can do it with teams that aren't that good, but you need to do it consistently. We need someone that's proven. I want my
Exactly.
manager to take me back into the Champions League. I need my manager to take me to a trophy and bring in a Thomas Frank.
Before you guys got Pochettino, did you think that that was the guy? What proof did you have there to go and be like,
Pochettino
yeah?
for me was
Because
more
at Southampton, it was a similar thing.
I was literally going to
No,
say
but
that.
you saw his Southampton team, and they were doing very well. For one day, I think they finished 8th, and they were competing, and they were beating a lot of the big clubs. He had a good,
Brentford.
really good
Brentford
talent.
beat us at the Etihad.
Yeah, they had really good talent ID, and I just feel like they were doing all the right things. Part of Southampton as a culture, the club, he was bringing through the young players and so on. Thomas Frank's doing a good job. I just don't think he's ready for Tottenham personally. I think a manager like Arne Slot, as you said, Ruben Amorim, Luis Enrique, someone like that who
Did you go for De Zerbi?
come in and De Zerbi would be amazing, but I just don't think that. I think
a downgrade for him.
Brian, they have a very good project.
Can I ask a question though? Thomas Frank, 2 years in the Prem. Yes, it's the highest that they've ever been. But if you look at the budget difference here, Brentford's new stadium costs about the same amount as you guys pay for Richarlison. So in terms of the money that your club has in comparison, do you not feel that with the right money and the right investment, you think about the way he gets Brentford playing football with a shoestring budget in comparison to Tottenham's? You're one of the biggest spenders in Europe over the last decade. I think you're in the top 4 or 5 spenders in Premier League history. Sure, like, what is it about him that you don't... I mean, is it a case of you think he might be a bit of a Graham Potter, like when he went to Chelsea, too big for him? At the same time, I remember people saying that about Eddie Howe.
David Moyes, Man United.
Yeah, it could be David Moyes to Man United, but equally, you've got Eddie Howe that's gone to Newcastle, and look what he's done inside 18 months with the financial backing. What is it about Thomas Frank that you just don't think is good enough?
Just doesn't appeal to me, to be honest. Doesn't appeal to me, and I just don't think the profile of him is good enough. And Jerry, you made a point about Pochettino back when he came in. That was a long time ago. We as a club have meant to evolve since then. We've moved to a new stadium. We spend a lot more on signings and transfers. We don't have that, shadow hanging over us where we can't sign players. The profile of the club has significantly risen since then. So why would we be going backwards and getting a manager like a Thomas Frank? For me, it's a big L, and it's something that we shouldn't be doing. We should be going for a decent manager, like George is saying. And the reason why managers don't want to come here is because of Daniel Levy. Whatever happens in that terms of those meeting boardrooms, FaceTime calls, whatever it is, meetings on Zoom or WhatsApp or chats, whatever it is, things are breaking down because when they ask Daniel Levy, what are you offering me? What have I got to spend? What profile player can I bring in? The answers are not good enough for these coaches to come in. So until Daniel Levy leaves, which I've been saying for years, nothing's really going to change. But in the meantime, Thomas Frank, no, he's not. I'd rather go for De Zerbi. And I know, what is it?
We're saying no, anyways.
Nobin said it's a step down, it's a downgrade. Come on, let's be real. If you're looking at Brighton and Tottenham, there's no comparison in terms of the team and what's going on. But yes, Brighton do play fantastic football. And they are a better team than Tottenham right now. But if you're looking at it from a manager's standpoint, it is a step up, and it is a chance to be a club.
It's got to be Roger Schmidt, the Benfica coach, or maybe Ruben Amorim, someone in Portugal, even a Porto coach.
No, but even that, Kaz, right? If you look at when Thomas Frank came in, he came in 2016 as assistant manager to Brentford. He's been there for like 7 years now. And he's able to go and transform the team. They've lost players along the way, the likes of Ollie Watkins, Ben Rama, all these players that have gone and left, and have still managed to go and progress year on year. Now, of course, it looks mad because Tottenham are obviously got the new stadium, have spent more players and more money on players. Kane's a different profile of player than he was back when Pochettino was there, of course. But you might have to go and adopt what Arsenal did and go back to go forwards. Because someone like a Thomas Frank has proven that he's someone that can introduce a culture into a club. Now, of course, Levy's the issue. Like, we know that. So you have to work within that because Levy doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. But you need a manager that can instill a culture. Now, De Zerbi, for how well he's done, that culture was already there at Brighton because Potter was doing well. So De Zerbi's coming in. It's like they've got the culture and these managers can be a plug and play. You need a manager that becomes the culture of the club. And I think when I look around, I don't know how many managers are out there that are proven in regards to being in the Prem that can offer you that. Now, of course, you can get a Ruben Amorim and stuff.
He done a culture in Lisbon. He done that himself.
Honestly,
I
don't
agree.
think-
I agree with what you're saying, JJ. But that is a
Hmm.
big point: is we can't have a manager for me like Thomas Frank, who's been managing at a small club with a small budget, making do with what he gets given. That's what Daniel Levy does to managers, and they're not happy about it. You bring in another manager like that, he might make do with what he's been given, and it's not going to be as well as a manager that comes in, instills a culture, demands things. Maybe not as much like Conte, but someone that's going to come in and be like, I need a player of this profile. We're going to make it happen. It's going to be a players, and they're going to be big players. We're a big club. We need to sign some big players, not all the time, but I need someone with European pedigree. I need someone who's gone out there in the European stage of football and shown me something.
I
Because
think
something-
you just answered your own
It's a
question
lot
there, though,
easier.
George. You just answered your own question because you just said then, what is Spurs right now as a club with Daniel Levy? They're a club who don't like to spend a lot of money and like to work within budget. That's what Frank is. That's therefore why we can't have Frank. That's exactly why you should have Frank. If Spurs as a club right now is, we're not going to go out and spend big, like City, for example, and we are going to work within a budget. If you're going to accept that reality, then you've got
But
to also
Nobbins, we
accept
do
the sort of
spend
managers
money.
like
though.
Thomas
We
Frank.
do spend money, but we spend it wrongly. We spent quite a lot of money. If you look at the signings that we brought in over the last couple of years, in terms of the transfer outlay, it's on par with pretty much most of the big spenders, apart from maybe a Chelsea. But it's just spending it wrongly.
Therefore, what you need is a manager who has been at a club which has extremely good track record and experience at spending money well, and Brentford with their Moneyball strategy. If you can bring in Thomas Frank and also the systems that Brentford have taken, that they've put into place, I think that actually is a match made in heaven for Spurs. If Spurs are what they are currently with Daniel Levy. Now, if Levy leaves and the culture changes, then the profile of manager changes. But in terms of what Spurs are right now, I think that's why Thomas Frank is actually one of the most perfect appointments you could make.
That's why I love Ten Hag, man. Exactly that.
Ten Hag is an exciting signing. I don't think Tottenham are going out and going to go sign an exciting manager at this point. They've missed out on some of these guys, and it seems like you are right, Patrick. It's going to be a Nuno situation, but who's to say that it doesn't end up better than it did the last time with Nuno? You get a manager in with low expectations, and he builds the squad up and does similar to what Pochettino does. And if that's what ends up happening, that's probably better off for you guys in the long run, because another top manager comes in and tries to just prolong what's going on at Tottenham. It might continue to keep you guys in the same state and not actually rebuild you guys the way you need to be rebuilt with another manager.
No, I think regardless of who comes in, whether it's a top manager, a no-name manager, someone in the middle, a rebuild is needed. Everything needs to be ripped up. You're saying if it happens like Poch, but that's us getting lucky. What I'm trying to say is that there's no direction, there's no strategy. So there's so many things that are wrong. So even the manager coming in, yes, of course, that's a major thing, but there's no director of football. There's no one pulling the strings above. We're hearing Donna Cullen's name. We're hearing Daniel Levy's name. We've got one of the most, we're run by billionaires. We're not a cash-strapped or cash-poor club. We're the 8th richest club in the world at the moment. So the money's there. It's just for whatever reason, we're not spending it rightly. We're not, the infrastructure, everything needs to be ripped up. But the names that I'm hearing every other day, none of them excite me. For
Patrick,
me,
who's your favorite?
it was Pochettino, Nagelsmann, and then Marcelo Gallardo. Those are the 3 that I've been saying for the longest time. Obviously, 2 now look like they're done. So for me, go and get Marcelo Gallardo. Go and push the boat out and get him. He's available. He's a top manager. He's not linked to any other clubs at the moment. He's available, and he will come in and change the culture. He will come in and install. But the thing is, we're Tottenham. We need to be realistic as well and understand what we want to do. Because if a top manager comes in and says, you know what, I think Harry Kane, for us to really go again and for me to build the club in my image, we need to sell him. Would Daniel Levy agree to that? And this is the problem that probably I feel a Nagelsmann and Enrique are having these conversations behind closed doors, and they're saying, this is what I want to do, this is my this is what I envision, this is how I want to shape the team. And because Daniel Levy's thinking, I don't want to take a hit on this guy, I don't want to take a hit on that guy, but a rebuild is needed. So if that means getting rid of Kane and Son, or whoever it is, Emerson Royale, whoever he feels is an asset, do it so that the manager can go again and we can actually build something. Because right now we're just withering away, and we're 7th now, might finish 8th next year, unless major changes are happening. It's the same again. So I'm actually bored of it now. I'm sick and tired of this shit. I just need to see some sort of action. It's true, like I'm actually sick of it. Like, to be linked to Thomas Frank and to have guys on here say that's a good shout, that just shows you where the club's at. It's embarrassing, man. Honestly, it's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. I understand everything you've said, and someone in the comments earlier said, "Oh, Terry, but you said Graham Potter would be good." That was a prediction that I made, and it was wrong. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna ever think that any other manager that's managing those mid-table teams is going to be good, because there was one player that pretty much 90% of people expected to do much better at Chelsea than he did. It kind of happens. I understand everything that you've said, but I also feel like there could be an element in there of kind of, I don't want to say cutting off your nose to spite your face, but I think I really rate him as a manager. But if he goes in and the fan base don't want him from day one, he's better off not taking it, because you're fighting an uphill battle instantly. The question just is, who would be the guy for you? Who would be the individual then that would get your juices flowing, Patty?
I said it already. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. I said Pochettino. Obviously, that's not happening. I said Nagelsmann, and I think most of the fan base agreed with that one. Young, trendy, if that's what you want to call it, plays fantastic football, yada, yada, yada. That's not happening. Marcelo Gallardo. And if you can't get him, I think De Zerbi, if I pronounced it wrong, he's a great manager. Those are the guys that would get me excited. But Terry, you know what? You made a good point. And sometimes I feel maybe we are a bit too stuck up in certain points, because we spoke about Kim Min-jae on Friday, and I said if he would have came over from the Turkish league, a lot of Spurs fans would have said, "Oh, why are we signing him for? Who is he?" Now he's gone to Napoli and tore it up. Everyone wants him, and it's almost the same with Eddie Howe. Imagine if Tottenham would have went for Eddie Howe when Eddie Howe was sacked after Bournemouth. Again, a lot of Spurs fans would have said, "What are we doing there? Why are we going for him?" So maybe you are right in the sense of a lower tiered manager, but I just
personally think these lower tier managers, they're used to having no pressure. Eddie Howe went to Newcastle, there wasn't that much pressure on him. It's just do your best. Just do your best and we'll see where it goes. And come to Tottenham, it isn't just do your best, it's you have to do your best or you're going to get sacked. Tottenham sack managers. We go through managers like Chelsea, similar to them. We have a standard in our club which we set, and once it isn't reached, we're not gonna give them too much time and get rid of them. So bringing in these smaller managers, small tier managers, I think that's the fear that they have. And like Terry said, he's gonna come in and he's gonna have everyone wanting him out from day one. He's not good enough. He ain't ready for the job. And then he's just going to be working an uphill battle. We need someone that's going to come in where the fans are going to get behind and unite, and they're going to build something. And it doesn't need to be a massive name. Like Gal said, there really isn't that many big names out there, but it needs to be an established manager who's already been playing on the European level, which is the Champions League and Europa League, and they've done something. Look at Aston Villa doing with Unai Emery. An amazing turnaround this season. And he's a manager with pedigree. He's a manager. When he came into when he turned down a Newcastle job, a lot of people were surprised. And when he came into Aston Villa, you knew he was going to do business. And we need someone like him to come in and to take over this club.
I get you there. We have some super chats right into Spurs. First one.